All right, folks, it's Tuesday night, 3rd November, and election results are coming in. And I told myself I was going to watch all night, probably till about midnight, and go to bed. I have to work in the morning. But something was just said about prediction meters and calling a race and so on that has once again proven to me that the world of the media is just corrupt. Virginia right now has almost a 12% lead in the votes tallied for President Trump. But they're holding by their prediction that it'll go to Biden. This is the same thing we saw in 2016. This is the same thing we saw in 2000 when in Florida, while polls were still open in the Panhandle because they had people in Central Time Zone, they called the state. And it's gotten just minusculely better because in 2000, they called the state before polls closed. They did at least learn their lesson to not do that. They're not calling Virginia before polls close. They're waiting. But when I see a 12% lead and unwilling to say, we don't know. I'm not saying call it for Trump. I don't want anyone to call anything until, we're at 98, 99% reporting. I don't want to make that call because even at that level, who knows? But the simple truth of the matter is Virginia has, if I remember right from what I was just watching, about half or less than half of precincts reporting. And President Trump is up 12%. To me, that's a literal toss-up. I can't say what's going on. I know early voting probably trends blue. We're actually seeing that in Texas where right now, not long after polls closed, the race is so tight that we don't know. But early voting was counted. We're still counting on election day votes. And to me, that says, wait. Now, I was watching Fox. I don't watch anything, CNN, MSNBC, ABC, CBS, any of them. I cannot stomach the hardcore, far, far left news organizations. I just can't. So for me, I'm not going to even suggest that you watch them. I don't suggest you watch Fox. I was watching my local affiliate, and they were cutting back and forth between the national Fox News. And then that happened where somebody from the Nerdquarium, as they call it, where they're looking at trends, they're looking at polls, they're looking at all of this and saying, no, we stand by our call for Virginia, even though Biden is down in the numbers. We know that in the last 4 years, the media has been exposed for the biased, partisan people they are. For crying out loud, Fox News has Juan Williamson and Chris Matthews, I believe. I don't even know if that's his name, but hosted the first debate. Both of them, hardcore, never Trumpers. And they're sitting there on this panel, which, I do like because they do have people who are very conservative on the panel. You can get a discussion if you can get Juan Williams to quit yelling at you. But to have them say, we're calling this state with less than half of the votes counted, and this margin we're already seeing, tells me that there is nothing you're going to know for several hours. I mean, right now, 9 o'clock at night, 2100 hours on Election Day Central Time. States like Pennsylvania, states like Florida, Texas, California, you're not going to know what the actual end vote is for hours. And for crying out loud, it's still 7 o'clock in California. I don't know if their polls closed at 7, 7:30, or 8. But even if they closed 2 minutes ago, then we still have polls open in Hawaii. We're not going to get results. I don't know why there's this fascination with sitting for hours on end, watching as people try to convince you that they know what's going to happen. The last 4 years showing us how corrupt and biased the media is on all sides. has made people realize that polls are rigged. I actually did this on my Twitter before my original Twitter was suspended. I actually ran 3 polls. The first one was a simple one-question poll. And it was a silly one. Would you rather live in, I don't know, Hyrule, Wakanda, Coast City, or Themyscira? I didn't tell you what any of those are. If you're a comic book nerd, you know what those are. If you're a video game nerd, you know what those are. There is no way you can tell anything about the people who responded to that poll by that amount of, by what I got. The next one I ran had, I believe, 2, maybe 3 questions, and it was the same as I ran for the third poll. I just expounded on it. The second poll was, who are you voting for? Or who would you vote for if the election was today, Trump or Clinton? Then I asked for age, then I asked for gender. The third poll, I asked those 3 questions. I also asked if you lived in the north, south, or on the east or west coast. I asked your level of education, and several other questions. I actually then put it together. There's a video. It's many, many months ago. You'll have to really dig to find it. If I can find it, I'll link it here later, where I discuss why I don't trust polls. If you follow me on Twitter and you see these polls that are posted and they say, oh, this poll says there's no chance for anything. And they tried it in 2016, 98% chance to win for Hillary, and she lost. There are 2 things that every poll must have, and that you must actually publish, and that is called demographics or methodology. The demographics are very simple. Where did you go? Who did you talk to? What were the age brackets? And what were the gender splits? Methodology. How did you run the poll? Online, SurveyMonkey, Twitter, whatever. Via phone. In person. If it was via phone, what areas of the country did you call? How many people in each area did you call? If you had an in-person poll, where did you go? Were you going to malls, churches, schools, the beach, whatever? How many people at each location did you talk to? Then another part of the methodology is, how did you ask the question? It could be as simple as, in this election right now, who are you voting for, Joe Biden or Donald Trump? People actually do automatically respond with the first thing they're told, they show. There are people who don't listen to the question, and they just pick the first answer they're given out of multiple choice. So something as simple as who you put as option A or B can influence your poll. If it is a telephone poll where it is not a recording, or an in-person, was there vocal inflection? What was the wording of the question? So many other things come into play. All of these things are coming out and have been for 4 years. People are not responding to these polls. People are not talking about who they're voting for. We truly are seeing the silent majority become a thing. We have seen intimidation of voters. We've seen people attacked for wearing a MAGA hat. We've seen their homes vandalized for putting a sign in their yard. For crying out loud, I believe it was earlier today, we saw Black Lives Matter rioters intimidating people at a polling place. And you wonder why people don't tell you who they're voting for, or maybe even lie. I can guarantee you that I know people personally in my life that have been polled as they came out of an election, and they literally lied about it. Some of them for shits and giggles. Some of them because they were afraid of who was around them hearing how they actually voted. The polls are useless. They have been for better than a decade. It's that simple. I just don't know what it's going to take for the masses to see it. Della, it is great to see you here on the live. I know I see you all the time in the comments. Just finally I was able to stop and read. There is something else, and this is something that honestly is going to take me weeks, if not a couple of months, to research. But there's something that I was asked about today. And it is honestly something that I have not thought about because it was never brought up in any of my classes. junior high, high school, college, any of them. And that is the two U.S. constitutions. The Constitution of the United States for America and the Constitution of the United States of America. One written in 1796, the other in 1871. I believe it was 71. It might have been 91. Very simply, in the second instance, it was where the United States formed a corporation, that being District of Columbia, to borrow money from the Rothschilds and the Vatican Bank. We had just come out of a civil war. I would not have done that, honestly, myself. And I can guarantee you voters would not have supported it, but it was never talked about. It was never put on any referendum or ballot. I have heard people refer to the United States as a CEO-type government. And this is honestly, and as much as I count Reagan a good president, Donald Trump is really the first president, probably since George Washington, truly working for the people, not the country as an entity. Lincoln was very good. Reagan was very good as a person and as a president, but still a politician. Donald Trump is not a politician, never has been, and likely never will be able to be classified as a politician. That's the reason DC, as the swamp, hate him with a passion. Prior to 2016, they loved him for his billions and billions of dollars. They wanted that money. They courted that money. He donated to both parties until 2016, when he realized neither party was truly working for the constituency. I am going to, once this has posted and I go back and I add my normal description and so on, I am going to post a link to another video where Mark Taylor, a former firefighter from Florida, is interviewed. This is the man who was the author of the Trump prophecy. He actually predicted Donald Trump would become president in 2016, but it was 2011 when he said that. That's a 5-year gap, and he was right. This is before Donald Trump had even floated the idea. You get where I'm going with this? There's a lot to be said about the swamp. They're not trying to remove Donald Trump because they think he's bad for the country. They're trying to remove Donald Trump because he is bad for them. He is bad for the swamp. That's why they hate him. That's why they want him gone. That's why the House pushed for impeachment with zero evidence. When a member of the House of Representatives, like little Adam Schiff, can actually say there's evidence in plain sight, and when literally looked at it and said, okay, point to it. Go get it and show it to me. You've made the allegation. You have accused someone of a crime. You must prove it. And for him to then say, no, it's just in plain sight. No evidence brought forward. They closed meetings to Democrats only. They did so much to try and ram impeachment through. And when the Senate said, no, this is bull, they just went on to say, well, we've impeached him. It doesn't matter. Yeah, it does. You see, impeachment is the accusation of a crime. That is the same as a city's district attorney agreeing to charge you with a crime. You then must go to trial. And if you are acquitted, then you are not impeached. You are not convicted. You are not guilty. And for crying out loud, how many members of Congress have been accused of one crime or another? Are we going to say, well, they're accused forever? No. But that's how moronic the Democrats and the swamp are. They fervently believe by just saying impeached forever, and the world knowing impeached only means charged, that they can still say, you have to vote for us. We have a candidate who almost didn't campaign, who literally told people, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black, who has had verbal gaffe after verbal gaffe. I mean, the joke on Babylon Bee is that Presbyterians are jumping ship to vote Biden because now he speaks in tongues. I honestly thought the man had a stroke on stage with that. I've said it for a while. This is elder abuse. Jill Biden, Kamala Harris, Nancy Pelosi, and everyone else involved should be in court answering to the charge of elder abuse, while Joe Biden is taken to a hospital to receive the 24/7 medical care he desperately needs. But it doesn't happen because they're Democrats. We are at what I believe, having studied history, having studied Revelation a lot. I've read that book more than any other in the Bible. Having studied other books that talk about prophecy, having studied political science, having studied so many things dealing with all the crap that's going on right now in the world, save COVID. I didn't study medicine. I listen to medical doctors who right now are by and large saying this is not a plague. This is not a pandemic. This is governments using a virus that is not as dangerous as they say it is to control people. I talked about last week, I believe, the Great Reset, where governments are going to tell their people, all of your debt is wiped out. You will now bend the knee and obey us and no one else, or you will be removed from society. We have people that don't see it, but the thermometer being used, being shaped very much like a handgun, taking a read off of the forehead when the wrist is actually more reliable. You're being conditioned subconsciously to accept a gun pointed at your head. You're being conditioned to think the government knows best. And sadly, millions upon millions believe it and go with it. Patrick Henry's words have never been more poignant. Give me liberty or give me death. And there are millions of people the world over who will stand and fight for freedom still today. The question is, what will we be fighting? I really do want to dig into this. And like I said, the Congressional Act of 1871, the new Constitution, all of these other things, this is going to take me a long, long time to research because the powers that be don't want you finding anything on this. For crying out loud, my little pocket constitutions are produced by a group that is only able to reproduce the Constitution the government will give them access to. That being the Constitution of the United States. He who controls information, he who controls history, controls the future. And we have a battle for the heart and soul of the planet between people who want to literally control you, every aspect of your life, and those who want you to be free. It's playing out right now, and it is going to be a tipping point in history. I truly believe it. That said, I am going to go back to reading. I have been on here talking now for almost 20 minutes, and I'm getting tired of repeating myself. Watch the results and come in if you want. I'll probably leave the little ticker going on the app. But remember that these people are calling states with less than half of the votes counted. I saw one called with under 10%. You couldn't call a 90% lead with less than 10% of the vote. It's just not possible. I don't know what it's going to take for the media to wake up and realize we see them for who they really are. If and when that happens, we are likely to see the media industry return to something like it was roughly 40 years ago. One or two national groups that compile the very basic facts: who, what, when, where, and how, not the why. And then send that information out to local news groups. I honestly wouldn't be upset with that. I guess we'll see, won't we?